Good morning. Today I am going to take the new module 4, Basics of Psychological Research. This module is related with scientific research, that meaning and characteristics of scientific research, its types, its processes, and different types of scientific research, etc. This chapter is dealing with those topics, and my topic is meaning and characteristics of scientific research. We know what is research, the meaning of research. We know that research has two parts, re and search. Re means over again. That is re. That's re-examination means again an examination. So re means over again, and search means examine carefully. So that research means careful examination of some problem again and again, so that we get a detailed result of that problem. Yes, so any scientific research is a systematic and objective attempt to provide answers to certain questions or problems. Scientific research provide us answers to questions or solutions to some problems in a systematic and objective manner. The purpose of scientific research is to discover and develop an organized body of knowledge. After we research some problem, we get the organized body of that problem. Therefore, the definition of scientific research is: the scientific research may be defined as a systematic and empirical analysis and the recording of controlled observation, which may lead to the development of theories, concepts, generalizations, and principles, resulting in prediction and control of those activities that may have some cause-effect relationship. That is, the research is a systematic analysis and empirical analysis. That is, through very careful observation, we get the body, we get the information about the research through careful observations, and that knowledge and that result lead to the development of some theories or some concepts, principles, generalizations, etc. After we research some problem, we get some theories or concepts, and these are helps in prediction of control of those activities that may have some cause effect relationship. So that all total, we understand that research is a objective, systematic, empirical analysis, and their result help us to develop some theories, some concepts and principles, etc. This is all about the meaning of scientific research. So now I am going to take the characteristics of scientific research. It is an important topic, the characteristics of scientific research. It has about 9 characteristics, and I explain it one by one. The first characteristic is: research is always directed towards the solution of a problem. In other words, in research, the researcher always tries to answer a question or to relate two or more variables under study. That is, research. After research, we have an answer, we have a solution to a particular problem. This is always directed to that solution, and the researcher always tries to answer a question or to relate two or more variables under study. That is the first characteristic. And the next characteristic is: research is always based upon the empirical and observable evidence. The researcher rejects those principles or revelations which are subjective and accepts only those revelations or principles which can be objectively observed. That is, we know that research is an observable or empirical analysis. We need an observable evidence for a good research. So the researcher rejects those principles or revelations which are subjective. This is very important, that the research is not subjective. It is not based on some personal feelings or some personal emotions. it needs to be objective. It is not based on personal emotions, that is, it is objective. So the research always objective, it is not subjective, and it is always based on empirical and observable evidence. And the next characteristic is research involves precise observation and accurate description. And the researcher selects reliable and valid instruments to be used in the collection of data and uses some statistical measures for accurate description of the results obtained. That is, we already know research involves precise observation, very detailed observation about the data, and an accurate description. To get accurate description, the researcher uses some statistical measures, and the researcher also selects reliable and valid instruments to be used in the collection of data, so that the research is very observable and the research has accurate description. The next characteristic is research gives emphasis to the development of theories, principles, and generalizations which are very helpful in accurate prediction regarding the variables under study. We already know that the result of researcher gives some development of theories, principles, concepts, etc. And these theories are very helpful in the prediction regarding the variables under study, so that the research help in the prediction, the accurate prediction of some variables under study. And on the basis of the sample observed and studied, the researcher tries to make sound generalization regarding the whole populations. The researcher tries to make sound generalization regarding the whole population based upon the sample observed and studied. And the next characteristic is research is characterized by systematic, objective, and logical procedures. We know that it is a systematic and objective process. The research is a systematic and objective process, and the research tries to eliminate his bias and makes every possible effort to ensure objectivity in the methods employed, data collected, and conclusion reached. So the researcher, to ensure the objectivity of his research, he tries to eliminate his bias. That is, it is objective. For making objective, he need to eliminate all the bias. So in the methods employed, data collected, and conclusion reached, so that the research is objective. He frames an objective and scientific design for smooth conduct of his research. He also makes a logical examination of the procedures employed in conducting his research work, so that he may be able to check the validity of the conclusions drawn. So the researcher, to check the validity of the conclusions, he always make a logical examination of the procedure, so that he can check the validity of the conclusions drawn. So the research is a systematic and objective process, and the researcher always tries to eliminate his bias to ensure the objectivity of the research. And he used some logical examination to check the validity of the conclusions. Next characteristic is research is marked by patience, courage, and unhurried activities. Whenever the researcher is confronted with difficult questions, he must not answer them hurriedly. He must have patience and courage to think over the problem and find out the correct solution. This characteristic means that research is a slow process. Slow process means it needs some patience, some courage, and unhurried activities. Research is always a calm activity, so that whenever the researcher is confronted with some difficult question, he must not answer them hurriedly. He has to think over it and find out the correct solution. So research need a good patience and courage. It is a simple point. And the next characteristic is research requires that the researcher has full expertise of the problem being studied. He must know all the relevant facts regarding the problems and must review the important literature associated with the problem. He must also be aware of the sophisticated statistical methods of analyzing the observed data. In this point, it is that the researcher has full knowledge about what he's being studied, what the research is upon. That the researcher has full expertise of the problem being studied. He must know all the facts, all the relevant facts, and review the some review the important literature associated with the problem. If the problem has some important literature, he must know that review. And he also aware of the which statistical method is used for the observed data. So the researcher has knowledge about what he has gone to be research. The eighth characteristic of the research is replicable. That is, the research is copied, it is reproduced. The designs, procedures, and results of scientific research should be replicable so that any person other than the researcher may assess their validity. One researcher is make some research, and the designs, procedures, and results of that scientific research should be replicable. It is copied so that any person, not the researchers, any person other than the researcher may evaluate their validity, may assess their validity. So one researcher may use or transmit the results obtained by another researchers, and thus the procedures and results of the research are replicable as well as transmittable. The results of the research is transmittable and copied, and that is replicable. So the last characteristic of research requires skill of writing and reproducing the report. The researcher must know how to write the report of his research. That is, he aware of the report. He must have some skill of writing and reproducing the report. He write the problem in unambiguous terms. He must define complex terminology, if any. He must formulate a clear-cut design and procedures for conducting research. He must present the tabulation of the result in an objective manner and also present the summary and conclusion with scholarly caution. That is, the researcher write the problem in unambiguous terms, that is, in only one interpretation. It must have one interpretation only, and define the difficult terms. If the research contains any difficult or complex terms, he has to explain it. He must formulate a clear-cut design and procedures for conducting research. And